Hi everyone, welcome to another video. Today I'm here with another episode of my 3-book wrap-up videos. I think it's number 4, although I have lost count. But in this one I do have 3 great books to talk about. 2 of them I've given 5 stars to, so that's amazing. Okay, so let's get started. So the first one I read was The Whole Truth by Kara Hunter, which was a book from Bookfulness subscription box that I used to be subscribed to, and I didn't really have super high expectations, if I'm honest. I'm not too sure why. Maybe because the cover doesn't quite, like, I don't know, it just didn't give me anything, but I had to read it for the Magical Readathon and I was so glad that I did because it genuinely pleasantly surprised me. It is the 5th book in a series. I've never read the first 4, but now having read the 5th one, I have bought since 4 previous books in the series, and I'm definitely going to be starting from the beginning because it was just amazing. So, as you probably can see from the cover, the plot of this book is an attractive student, an older professor. Think you know the story? Think again. That's essentially the plot of this book. We've got an Oxford student who is accusing one of their professors of like sexual assault slightly. So D.I. Foley, who is our main character, he thinks obviously it's one of those situations when it was a woman, a young woman being like harassed by an older professor. It was the other way around this time. It was a 6-foot tall rugby player who is a male, and the professor was an older, I can't remember how old she is actually, to be honest with you. I can't remember. Maybe in her 40s, I think. So she's a bit older than he is, and he accused her of some sexual assault. So this like investigation starts from there, which is, yes, that's part of the plot of the story, but there's so much more to the book than that. There are different mysteries. I think some of them might have been carried over from the previous books. I'm not 100% sure because, like I said, I've not read the first 4. But it was constant. Literally, there was not a single boring moment in this book. It was purely, I was constantly on the edge of my seat. Stuff kept happening. There would be different parts of the story thrown in there. Unrelated stories as well sometimes, which was still pretty interesting, pretty good. And it's just literally non-stop. It was so fast-paced. I really enjoyed it. And the fact that it doesn't have any chapters also makes the story flow by so quickly, because it does like separate into different paragraphs like this, and they last about a page or sometimes half a page, sometimes 2 pages, and they'll be always from different perspectives. They will be sometimes from D.I. Foley's perspective or from some other members of his team, or sometimes it'll be the victim's perspective, and all of that is just such different sides, so many different sides of the stories, and different stories as well, not just the one. And it was just amazing. I felt like it was such a full-on story, but in such a good way. And I think I read the book quite quickly, considering its size is 400 pages, and I don't really read books of this size very quickly, but I just literally, there were times that I couldn't put this book down. It was so interesting, so fascinating, so amazing. The plot of the story kept constantly moving, and I didn't know, I didn't guess anything what was happening at all. And I think we still have a question at the end of the book, so I'm not sure if that's just left for your interpretation or whether that's going to be dealt with in the next book, but I won't find that out because I'm going to be starting from the beginning again. But maybe I'll get answers to some other questions that were raised in this book, but just purely because I've not read the first 4, so maybe I'll get more information on those bits as well, which will be quite interesting. But yes, even the main characters, like police work actually is one of the things that I'm definitely interested in. So that was very interesting to see the investigation process, how things happen, what kind of things they do in order to find that out, and like different procedures and all of that. I just find it really fascinating and really interesting, and there's quite a lot of that in there, but not to the point that if you, let's say, don't enjoy that type of thing, I still think you would enjoy this book because it was just non-stop action, but not in a boring way, because I don't normally enjoy non-stop action if, let's say, fantasy books. But this one I think was perfect, absolutely perfect, and the writing style is definitely very easy to read. It does have different format things as well, so it'll be having like different sort of emails, different interviews, and I think occasional pictures maybe, different like files, open files and stuff like that. So it just makes it so much more interesting. I love when books do that kind of thing, when the authors put different bits of the story, so it's not just plain text, it'll be different bits and pieces from like investigation process, or a picture every now and then, or like, I don't know, some sort of additional information which makes the story flow so much better and so much more real. I get so invested in those types of books, and that was just a perfect example. Definitely really enjoyed it. Cannot wait to read more from the series. It was a great book, and I'm so pleased that I had it from Bookfulness. And again, like I said, I didn't expect to love it as much as I did, but I have given it 5 stars because it was just that great. The next book that I read was The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. I think I will put the cover somewhere here, so I might just move a little bit. But that was an audiobook that I listened to. That one has a dual timeline story. So in the first one we are following Nella, which happens in 1800s, I think. Can't quite remember exact date, unfortunately. But she has got this little apothecary shop, so she'll be selling remedies for different like diseases and stuff like that. But she also has a secret that is known to some people. She's quite known in some areas, let's say. So she'd be selling poisons to people, to women specifically, to women who've been like wronged by their husbands or somebody. So the woman would come to her for a poison and she would get them one. And we also follow Caroline in the present day, who she's going to London for her 10th wedding anniversary, supposedly with her husband, but he cheated on her a couple of days before, so she's going on her own. And she, in one of the adventures that she does there, she finds a vial that belonged to that lost apothecary. And so now she starts to slowly discover different deaths and discover more about that apothecary. I really enjoyed it. I always do enjoy books with dual timeline, and the atmosphere of this book was also, of the past, was great, and you could definitely tell the difference when was what. And obviously for the audiobook that I listened to on script, there were three different narrators. So we had Nella's as a different voice, and when we had Caroline, and also we did have a third voice which I haven't actually mentioned, but that is a 12-year-old girl who comes to Nella's shop for poison. So they start an unexpected friendship, so we get her point of view as well. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was really interesting. There's not much happens in it, but it was just interesting from Caroline's point of view how she was getting more into the story of the apothecary. And to me it's also fascinating to like find out the history of something. So she finds this little vial, she goes to the library to get more information, then she starts digging little pieces, she finds some other things on her own as well, which was quite interesting. And to me it is also mind-blowing how you can find something that was from that long ago and you get the information, and it's just mind-blowing that you can sometimes still hold an object that was somebody was using in the 1800s. That's just fascinating to me, and you get to know their story and stuff like that, especially if it was a famous story like this one sort of turned out to be in the book. That's fascinating, so I'm definitely interested in that kind of thing. But then also Nella's story was quite interesting as well. Her view on that, she did not consider herself as a killer technically. She did have like good reasons for all of that. So it was an interesting book, definitely. I enjoyed the characters a lot. I enjoyed the narration of it. It was perfectly paced. I thought it wasn't slow, it wasn't too fast, and it was just really enjoyable. And if you like that kind of book, especially with dual timeline, I think you will enjoy it as well. The 2 storylines at some point do sort of come together in one way. I can't tell you too much about it, but I thought that was kind of just brilliant because it played out quite a good role in the book. So that was definitely a good book. And the last book I'm going to be talking about today is The Shadows Between Us, Patricia Levenseller. I read the duology by her, The Daughter of the Pirate King and The Daughter of the Siren Queen, back a few years ago. I listened to the audiobook, absolutely loved it. So this one I was a bit nervous about reading it because I thought, what if I don't enjoy it as much as I enjoy the first, like those 2 books? But I was again very pleasantly surprised with this book. It was great. So in this one we'll follow our main character, Alessandra, who her wish is to basically woo the Shadow King and then marry him and then kill him and take his kingdom for herself. That's her goal. She's a very sassy and funny main character. I think Tricia Levenseller is good at writing that kind of character. That's what I enjoyed in Daughter of the Pirate King as well. At some point she realizes that there have been some attempts to assassinate the king, and she obviously needs to keep him alive because she wants to get the kingdom for herself. I really enjoyed this book. The more I got into it, the more I enjoyed it, and when I wasn't reading the book I was thinking about it, wanting to get back into it, and even now, it's been like a couple of weeks I think since I read it, I still think about this book on occasion. And I loved it. I loved it so much. There's also quite a lot of descriptions of clothes, like fancy clothes, because she's quite into sewing and designing clothes, so that was quite interesting, to be fair. And the main character, like I said, Alessandra, she's so sassy. She's such a strong female lead, which I did really appreciate in this book quite a bit. But also the Shadow King is quite an interesting character. I enjoyed his point of view. Well, we don't get his point of view, but I did enjoy hearing about him. He is interesting, definitely an interesting character. So, and the chemistry between the two was superb. It's definitely believable. I enjoyed reading about it. I felt it. I felt the chemistry between them, which was amazing. And obviously her life in the palace, the friendships that she makes with different people. She is a great character. She's a great friend, and it was just interesting to read about her interactions with different people, how she treats them, and it was just amazing. I loved this book so much. There's not like a lot of fantasy elements in here apart from the Shadow King obviously has shadows like around him, and there's some secret involved in that as well. But honestly, I love this book. I am interested in the other two books that she's written, just to make sure whether she is one of my favourite authors or not, because it's a YA fantasy and I thought I sort of gone off of them. But this just proves that it hasn't, because I have given this book 5 stars. It was absolutely fabulous. I thought, at first when I was reading it, I thought it was going to be like a 4-star book. But like I said, the more I got into it, the more I got invested, the more I started to miss it when I was reading it. So it was definitely a great book. And I really enjoyed it. Please let me know if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye!